People often glance at a courtroom and imagine nothing but rules, gavels, and strict order. They see robes and lists of do's and don'ts. But after over 4 decades behind this bench, I've realized the law isn't just black and white. It lives in the gray zones where real life unfolds. It's in those moments when decent people are cornered by impossible circumstances, and the only barrier between them and disaster is a little bit of mercy. I'll never forget the day a young woman walked into my courtroom. She couldn't have been older than 19, maybe 20. On paper, she was just another minor offender. Speeding, reckless driving. But when I looked at her eyes, I didn't see defiance or carelessness. I saw someone carrying the weight of the world. I saw sacrifice etched into her very being. And I knew that if I rigidly followed the rules, I might crush her spirit forever. But before I tell you about the extraordinary choice this girl made, a story that will redefine courage in your eyes, do me a favor. Hit subscribe and drop a comment with where you're watching from. I read every single one, and it reminds me that compassion truly is universal. You won't want to miss a single moment of this. My mornings have always followed a pattern, a rhythm I've kept for decades. Up before dawn, strong black coffee in hand, I think of my father. He used to say, "Frank, when you put on that robe, you're not just a judge. You're part of the neighborhood. Treat people like family." Those words echo every time I step up to the bench. By 8:30 a.m. I was reviewing the docket with Christina. Routine day in Providence, expired meters, parking tickets, people running reds because they were late for work. Predictable. Ordinary. Until one file made me pause. A speeding violation. Nearly 20 over the limit. Normally, that's an automatic fine, maybe a suspension. But a note on the police report caught my eye. The driver had been visibly shaking, distraught. I leaned back. A 19-year-old shaking and panicked? That usually signals one of two things: guilt or desperation. I had a feeling it was the latter. When Christina called her name, the courtroom went silent. She rose slowly, a small frame holding onto a backpack like armor. Her eyes rimmed red, dark circles marking sleepless nights. She didn't look like a reckless driver. She looked like someone who hadn't breathed freely in weeks. She stepped to the podium, hands trembling. I asked her to state her name. Barely a whisper. Sarah. Just Sarah. No attitude, no defiance, only exhaustion. I held up the ticket. Sarah, speeding 55 in a 35 zone. That's serious. You put yourself and others at risk. Explain why you were in such a rush. She drew in a shaky breath, trying to hold tears at bay. She didn't offer excuses. She didn't blame the car. She looked straight at me. "Your Honor, I know I was speeding. I'm sorry. I was trying to get from my shift at the diner to the hospital before visiting hours ended." Hospital. That word shifted the entire energy in the room. I leaned forward. The hospital? Who is in the hospital, Sarah? She stared at the floor, voice breaking. "My mother, Your Honor. She's very sick." The courtroom went silent. You could hear a pin drop. I've heard every excuse for speeding, but mention of a hospital transforms a simple traffic case into a human crisis. I asked gently, "What's wrong with your mother?" Tears finally spilled. She brushed them away with her hoodie sleeve, ashamed to show them. "Stage 4 breast cancer, Your Honor. The doctors. They said she might only have a few months left." Stage 4. At 19, she wasn't planning a future. She was planning a goodbye. I let the weight of that sink in. "And that day, why the rush?" I asked. She drew in a deep breath. "I worked double shifts at the diner, Your Honor. Visiting hours end at 8. If I miss the bus, I miss her." That night, the bus was late. She borrowed a neighbor's car. She just needed to see her mother before she slept, not be alone. I looked at the ticket again. 55 and a 35, reckless on paper, but desperation in life. Her hands gripped the podium, red and chapped from work. I asked the question I ask many young people. "Sarah, are you in school?" Her shoulders slumped. "I was, Your Honor, studying nursing. I wanted to help people. But when Mom got sick, insurance didn't cover everything. Treatments, bills, rent. It was too much. I had to quit school and work extra shifts. I'm the only one she has. I sat stunned. Here was a girl who should have been worrying about exams and friends, sacrificing her own dreams to preserve her mother's life. She carried not only financial but emotional burdens, protecting her mother from guilt. The police prosecutor looked moved, shifting in his seat. We enforce laws, collect fines. But how do you find love, sacrifice, and desperation? I asked about her pay. $9 an hour plus tips. The speeding fine alone was nearly $300. Weeks of work for her. That fine could take food from her mother, money for medicine, gas to the hospital. Punishing a speeder? Or punishing a daughter for loving her mother too fiercely? But the law is the law, right? Speeding is dangerous. Someone could get hurt. I had to weigh public safety against the humanity of the girl before me. I examined her driving record. Was this reckless behavior, or one desperate moment in an otherwise careful life? What I found made me pause, and it made the choice ahead of me even more profound. Before I share what was on that abstract, I have to ask you, have you ever sacrificed a dream for someone you love? Comment below. I want to hear. I stared at her record. In this role, I've seen countless mistakes. Speeding, parking violations, suspended licenses ignored. Most tell stories of carelessness. But not hers. But when I studied Sarah's driving record, something completely unexpected appeared. It was spotless. No parking tickets, no moving violations, nothing. 3 years of driving, and not a single error until that night her mother needed her. I looked up from the pages and met her gaze. She trembled, anxious about what the record might reveal. "Sarah," I said softly, "do you know what this paper says?" She bit her lip, shaking her head. "No, Your Honor." "Is it bad?" "Quite the opposite," I replied. "It's perfect. You have a flawless driving record. Never a brush with the law. This shows me you are a responsible young woman." Her shoulders sagged just slightly, a small release of the tension she had been carrying. "I try to follow the rules, Judge. I really do," she said quietly. "My mom always taught me that the right way is the only way. But that night, when the nurse called saying she needed me, I just stopped thinking." I nodded, understanding how fear can erase all the rules we live by. But a dilemma remained. The law treats speeding as strict liability. You commit the offense, you pay the fine. And with court costs, her violation amounted to almost $300. I did the math out loud for her. "Sarah, the state expects $300 today. You make $9 an hour. Do you realize how many hours of work that is?" Her eyes widened. Over 30 hours of standing, serving, smiling when all you want to do is cry. She lowered her gaze, whispering, "I don't have it, Your Honor. Only $40 left. The rest went to the pharmacy yesterday. I can't pay. I can't ask my mom. I can't stress her out." The courtroom was hushed. You could almost feel the weight of her situation pressing down on everyone. This was more than money, it was survival. I leaned forward, wanting to grasp the depth of her sacrifice. "Sarah, you quit nursing school to pay for her treatment. Do you realize what that means? You put your life on hold for someone you love." For the first time, her eyes held a spark of fierce determination. "She's my mom, Judge. She raised me alone, worked 2 jobs, never complained, never asked for help. Now it's my turn. How could I study to save strangers when the person who saved me is dying at home?" Her words hit me like a punch to the chest. Even the prosecutor had stopped writing, just watching. The officer who issued the ticket stared at the floor, perhaps wishing he hadn't turned on his lights. "You have the heart of a nurse, Sarah," I said gently. "Compassion, selflessness, putting others first. The world needs nurses like you. It's tragic that the system forces you out of the profession you were born to pursue." She wiped a tear. "I hope to return one day, Your Honor. But right now, I just need to make it through today. I need to keep the lights on for her." I leaned back, weighing my options. I could dismiss the ticket based on her clean record and the emergency. That would be the simple route. $300 saved. Justice in the traditional sense. But as I looked at this young woman, clothes too old, eyes weary beyond her years, carrying burdens number 19-year-old should bear, I realized mere dismissal wasn't enough. It would solve today, but tomorrow? She'd still be broke. Still out of school. Still fearing what comes next. My father's voice echoed. Sometimes, Frank, you must do more than interpret the law. Sometimes you have to change the outcome. I turned to her. Sarah, dismissing this ticket saves $300. But does it solve the problem? She blinked, confused. It helps a lot, Your Honor. I can buy groceries this week. I know, I said. But I see someone drowning here, and I can't just watch while holding a life preserver from the shore. I made a decision, one not in the manual, not standard procedure, but it felt right. I addressed the courtroom, filled with strangers, waiting for their cases, anxious. I asked a question I rarely ask. When was the last time you helped someone just because it was the right thing? The story had shifted. No longer about speeding, it was about community, empathy, humanity. I turned to the gallery, usually distracted, checking watches or phones. But now, all eyes were on Sarah. I wanted her to see the truth. The law isn't just cold text, it lives in the people it serves. I posed the question to them. If your mother, the one who gave you life, was in the hospital, and this might be your last chance to say goodbye, how many of you would glance at the speedometer? At first, hesitation. Then, a veteran raised his hand. A young mother. A man in a suit. Even the bailiff. Within moments, almost every hand was up. I turned to Sarah. Tears streamed as she saw not strangers, but a room of sons and daughters who understood her heart. See that, Sarah? That is the verdict of your peers. The law exists to keep people safe, but it also recognizes moments of necessity, when saving life or protecting love outweighs traffic rules. I lifted my pen. The scratch echoed in the silence. Ticket dismissed. No court costs. No fine. Gone. Sarah sobbed, gripping the podium until her knuckles whitened. Thank you, Your Honor. You don't know what this means. I think I do, I said. It means groceries. Gas. A moment to breathe. Most judges would have stopped there. Case closed. But watching her, preparing to return to her double shifts, her dying mother, a life of dreams deferred, I couldn't let her leave. Dismissing the ticket fixed today, not tomorrow. She was a brilliant young woman, destined to heal others, crushed by a system demanding she choose between education and family. I looked back at her file, her nursing school notes. Sarah, I said, halting her before she left. Wait, don't go yet. She froze, eyes wide. Did I do something wrong, Judge? No, I said. You did everything right. But one more question. You dropped out because of money. How much? She blinked, confused. How much what? The tuition balance. How much stands between you and getting back into class? Embarrassed, she looked down. Poverty carries its own shame, even for those working harder than anyone else. It's a lot, Your Honor. A semester behind. About $4,000. Late fees included. For a girl making $9 an hour, that felt like a mountain. I nodded slowly, exchanging a glance with Inspector Quinn and the camera crew filming every moment. And then my eyes returned to the veteran in the back row, the same man who had been the first to raise his hand. It hit me suddenly. We often think of courtrooms as places where we take money, licenses, sometimes even freedom. But what if a courtroom could also be a place where we give back? I made a choice right then. Reckless, perhaps. Certainly not in any judicial manual. But I knew I wouldn't sleep that night if Sarah walked out with nothing but a dismissed ticket. Sarah, I said, leaning forward, my voice steady, you are not leaving this courtroom carrying that burden. Her eyes widened, confusion written plainly across her face. I don't understand, she whispered. You heard me, I replied. We're going to fix this right now. Before I share what happened in the next few minutes, the miracle that unfolded, I want to ask you, have you ever witnessed a stranger's life change in the blink of an eye? This story moves beyond the bench into the heart of humanity, and it shows why hope still exists. Sarah's confusion was tangible. She glanced around the courtroom, then back at me, as if bracing for some cruel trick. People in her position rarely hear that their debts might be erased. They hear late fees, interest, or collections notices. "I have something to tell you, Sarah," I said, my tone softening. "My mother, Philomena, was a woman much like yours. She worked in a factory, hands rough, heart soft. She taught me that you can't always save the world, but you can save the person in front of you." I reached into my desk drawer. Years ago, I had started the Philomena Fund in her memory. Not government money. Money from viewers around the world who believe in second chances. Every donation, $5, $10, allows me to intervene when someone like Sarah, working hard but struck by misfortune, walks into my courtroom. Inspector Quinn gave me a nod. He knew exactly what I was about to do. "We're going to write you a check today," I said. "Not for $300. We're giving you $2,000 from the Philomena Fund to help with your tuition." Sarah gasped, a sound that seemed to suck the air from the room. She covered her mouth, knees buckling slightly, clutching the podium to stay upright. $2,000. Not the entire debt, but enough to lift the hold on her account, enough to let her return to class. "You do this for me?" she stammered, tears flowing faster than she could wipe them. "I'm just nobody, Judge. Just a girl with a speeding ticket." "You are a daughter who loves her mother," I told her. "And that makes you somebody to me." But the story didn't stop there. And this is the part that still sends chills down my spine. As I signed the paperwork, I heard a shuffling at the back. I looked up. It was the veteran, cane in hand. "Your Honor," he said, voice gravelly but steady. "Permission to approach?" "Go ahead, sir," I replied. He made his way forward and opened a worn leather wallet. "I don't have much," he said, eyes on Sarah. "I'm on a fixed income. My wife passed away from cancer 2 years ago. I know those hospital visits. And I know the cost of gas and parking." He pulled out 2 $20 bills and placed them on the railing. "Maybe it helps you this week." Sarah looked at the money, then at him, sobbing. "Sir, I can't." "You take it," he said firmly. "Become a nurse. One day, help someone else's wife." Then the floodgates opened. A woman in a business suit walked forward. "I've got 100. A construction worker added, "I only have 10, but take it." Even the bailiff contributed. Suddenly, the courtroom had transformed. No longer just a place of law, it was a collective act of humanity. Strangers gave freely, seeing themselves in Sarah, her struggle, her mother, her heart. I leaned back, watching in awe. In 40 years, I had never seen anything like it. People waiting for their own judgments emptied their pockets for someone they had met moments before. Sarah stood there, overwhelmed, clutching the podium, surrounded by crumpled bills. "Judge, I don't know what to say." "Say nothing," I told her. "Just see. This is what happens when people choose humanity first and defendants second." Inspector Quinn counted the donations. Combined with the Philomena Fund, the total came to nearly $3,000. A miracle. But one final obstacle remained, something Sarah hadn't revealed yet, something standing between her and school even with the money. And it was far harder to solve than cash. I'm going to tell you about that last hurdle, and the promise I made her, a promise I would keep no matter what. This is where her life truly changed. The courtroom buzzed with energy you rarely feel in a government building. Oh, strangers wiping tears, smiling at one another. Sarah held a pile of cash representing her future. $3,000. Enough to clear the debt, unlock her transcript. But as the applause subsided, her expression changed. Fear returned, not the panic of a speeding ticket, but a quiet, heavy dread. "Sarah," I said, leaning forward, "you have the money. The Philomena Fund and these generous people have cleared the way. Why do you still look like the weight of the world is on you?" She drew a shaky breath. "Your Honor, it's not just the money. Even if I pay them, I don't think the school will take me back." I frowned. "Why not? You're a good student. Clean record. Schools want students like you." She looked down, shameful. "I didn't just drop out. I disappeared. When the bills piled up, I was too embarrassed. I didn't go to the registrar. Didn't fill out withdrawal forms. I just stopped showing up. Ghosted my professors. Failed my finals by default." Tears welled again. "I burned that bridge, Your Honor. Too ashamed to admit I was poor, so I ran away. The room fell silent. I felt the weight of that silence, the hidden suffering poverty can create. Shame, isolation, doors closing for fear of asking for help. Sarah, I said gently, you didn't run because you didn't care. You ran because you were overwhelmed. There's a difference. I know, she whispered. But the dean doesn't know. The policy says leaving without notice means waiting a year to reapply. My mom, she doesn't have a year. That hit me harder than anything. The clock wasn't ticking on her education. It was ticking on her mother's life. I looked at Inspector Quinn. He knew exactly what I was thinking. The camera crew, the phone on my desk, they all witnessed it. In 40 years, I've learned rules matter. Policies exist for a reason. But rules are made by people, and people have hearts. Sometimes, one conversation can change a rule. One person willing to pick up the phone and say, "This isn't how it has to be." "Sarah," I said firmly, "give me the name of your school." She blinked. "Rhode Island College, sir. Nursing program." "And the dean?" I asked. "Dean Williams," she replied. "But your honor, you can't," Sarah protested. "I can," I interrupted firmly. "And I will." I picked up the heavy, black receiver on my bench and dialed. "Get me the dean's office at Rhode Island College," I told the operator. The courtroom went silent. Sarah looked pale, on the verge of fainting. She had expected a fine, and now here I was, calling the dean in the middle of court. "Sarah," I said as the line rang, "shame thrives in darkness. It convinces you that your mistakes are permanent and that you are alone. We're turning on the lights. We're going to tell the truth. Not the story of disappearance, but the story of sacrifice for love." The line clicked. A voice answered, "Dean's office." "Good morning," I projected through the microphone so all could hear. "This is Judge Frank Caprio from Providence Municipal Court. I have a young woman here, Sarah, and I need to speak with Dean Williams immediately. It's urgent." After a brief pause, a deeper voice spoke. "This is Dean Williams. Judge Caprio, is everything all right?" "Dean," I said, calm but resolute, "everything will be fine, but I need your help to fix a mistake. Not one of malice, but a mistake born of love." What happened next is a moment I will never forget, a collision of two worlds. The rigid policies of academia meeting the messy, beautiful reality of human compassion. You need to hear exactly what the dean said, the promise that changed Sarah's life forever. The courtroom held its breath as I spoke into the receiver. Dean Williams, a man I had never met, now held Sarah's future in his hands. "Dean," I said steadily, "I have a young woman before me. Her name is Sarah. She was in your nursing program last semester. Do you have her file?" Through the line came the tapping of keys. "Yes, Judge. I see her file. She withdrew without notice. Grades were incomplete. By policy, she cannot be readmitted until next fall." Sarah flinched. "Ineligible." The word hit her like a physical blow. "I understand the policy," I said. "But Dean, this isn't a standard situation. Sarah didn't leave out of laziness or irresponsibility. She left to care for her mother, who has stage 4 cancer, and took a job waiting tables to pay for her mother's treatment." Silence on the other end. "Dean, she was too proud, maybe too ashamed, to tell you the truth. She ghosted you because she was broke. But right now, in my courtroom, strangers have raised $3,000 to help her. The money is right here on my bench. The only obstacle now is a rule in a handbook. You train nurses to save lives, to show compassion. Sarah is already living that oath, caring for her mother. Doesn't that count for something?" The silence was long. Sarah trembled, hands clenched white-knuckled on the podium. Then Dean Williams exhaled. Not frustration, realization. "Judge," he said softly, "I didn't know about her mother. The file only says she withdrew. It doesn't explain why." "That's why I'm calling," I said. "Sometimes paperwork doesn't tell the whole story. I'm asking you as one human being to another. Can we waive the waiting period and let her back next week? The semester has started. It would be highly irregular," he hesitated. "Her mother doesn't have a year, Dean. Sarah needs this. And the nursing profession needs her. We need people who care this deeply. Then he spoke 3 words that changed everything. Send her in. Sarah's head snapped up. Excuse me. I asked to make sure everyone heard. Send her to my office tomorrow morning, Dean Williams said. We will waive the waiting period. Her withdrawal will be classified as a medical leave of absence retroactively. Bring the payment you mentioned, and we'll unlock her registration immediately. She can start the accelerated rotation Monday. Sarah cried, collapsing on the podium, face buried in her arms. The courtroom erupted in applause. The veteran gave a proud thumbs up. Thank you, Dean, I said. You just saved more than a student. You saved a family. Tell her we are proud, Dean added before hanging up. We want her back. The click of the phone echoed. Did you hear that, Sarah? I can go back, she whispered, tears shining on her cheeks. You start Monday, I said. You're going to be a nurse. You'll make your mother proud while she's still here to see it. Sarah looked at the money on the bench, the crumpled bills from strangers, the Philomena fund check, and then at the people in the gallery who had come together to help her. I don't know how to thank you, she said. You don't pay it back, I told her. You pay it forward. One day, holding a scared patient's hand in a hospital, you'll remember this moment. You are not alone. I picked up my gavel, ready to close the case, but one last lesson remained. One final truth about justice, beyond the courtroom, that this story taught all of us. Sarah gathered the money, the check, the bills, holding them like treasure. When she looked at me one last time, hope had returned. She was no longer 10 years older than her age from worry. She looked like a teenager again, lighter, ready for the world. Go make us proud, Sarah, I said. Tell your mother the city of Providence is rooting for her. I will, Judge, she promised. I promise. As she walked down the aisle, a wave of humanity followed. The veteran tipped his hat. The businesswoman smiled. Strangers with their own struggles patted her shoulder, whispered encouragement. Sarah left the courtroom, not as a defendant, but as a future nurse. I sat in the silence that followed. Christina handed me the next file, but I didn't open it. I looked at the empty space where Sarah had stood. People often ask why I run my courtroom this way, why I take the time to ask about lives, families, struggles. Judge, you're too soft, they say. The law is the law. But I tell them, the law exists for people, not the other way around. Without understanding the human being behind the rules, we are just processing paperwork. That day, we didn't just dismiss a speeding ticket. We didn't just pay a tuition bill. We restored faith. We showed a young woman that when she falls, there are hands ready to lift her up. And I believe, truly, that Sarah will become an extraordinary nurse. She'll treat patients with the same compassion she experienced here. She'll hold the hands of those who are scared, just as we held hers. That is the ripple effect of kindness. It never stops with one person. Months later, I received a card. Sarah, in her nursing scrubs, standing beside her mother in a hospital bed. Frail, yes, but smiling, the biggest smile I've ever seen. On the back, Dear Judge, Mom got to see me return to class. Thank you for giving us this moment. Thank you for giving me my life back. I keep that card in my desk. It reminds me why I wear this robe, and what my father always told me. Frank, never look down on anyone unless you're helping them up. So I ask you, did I do the right thing? Should I have fined her because the law says so, or did I do right by looking at the bigger picture? Comment below. I read every one. If this story touched your heart, reminded you of second chances, hit like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs to know there is still good in this world. And always, be kind. You never know the burden someone carries. God bless.